Hello there, it's midweek. You're watching The Pulse on the JoyNews channel. Coming up, family of a man who allegedly died out of police brutality calls for an independent probe into circumstances leading to the death of their son. We'll hear from gospel musician Perpetual Didier, who's refusing to come to terms with claims by the police that his brother may have died after swallowing substances suspected to be narcotics. Also, it's fast becoming a death trap, but there's no end in sight to fixing the problem. This afternoon, we revisit the Tema-Accra motorway, which requires urgent attention due to its deplorable status. We'll also get the latest from our reporters shortly, and the world is yet to recover from that earthquake that claimed thousands of lives in Turkey and Syria. But for a country such as Ghana, what are the risk mitigating measures in place in the unlikely events that the country suffers a similar shock? We'll hear from experts here on The Pulse. It's all coming up here on the program, brought to you by Communities Dignilu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. Don't forget that we're on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 144. I am Blessed Sogah. This is The Pulse. We're back with the details shortly. Please stay. Well, for today, there's a push for a full-scale forensic and pathological probe into circumstances leading to the death of a 32-year-old Shadrach Alo. The police say his airway was blocked with a post-mortem examination revealing 8 bags of cannabis were retrieved from his throat. Family of the deceased say this is an attempt to actually divert attention from the fact that Shadrach was brutalized by the police, causing his death. For today, we analyze all of the accounts that we're hearing, especially as the family is disputing the accounts from the Ghana Police Service. But first, we'll be speaking to a criminologist who will give us a better understanding to how things are unfolding. But I want you to take a listen to this interaction between my colleague Joseph Akable and sister of the deceased, Perpetual Didier, who explains why the family is not accepting the position of the Ghana Police Service.
First of all, they mentioned my name, that they have called me to integrate with me about the investigation, which is never true. The police has not called me anywhere to ask me any questions, to tell my side of the story, to help them to do investigation. It is out. And the date they gave us was yesterday. Before yesterday, it was 14th, and they changed the date. So when we went to the morgue together with 2 MPs, Jomolo and Elembele, our mother, Dorcas Afo-Tofi, and our father, Honorable Kofi Amabwa. We went there, they wanted to start the autopsy, and I told them that no, for us to get real evidence of everything, for us to understand, we need a medical doctor. So they should ask the police to give us a chance to find a medical doctor, which of course we got one. But that my doctor too is out of Accra. So he gave us his colleague. The colleague begged us to tell the police to allow him to come today, which is Wednesday. So the police, instead of them to understand, because I told one of my sisters, yesterday I was not around. I took the children that was supposed to travel with my brother, which is gone. I took them to the embassy yesterday for medical tests. So I was not around, and my sister called me, one of the relatives called me that the police still want to do the test without our doctor around. Then I said, no, I will never, because my name is involved. My name is headline all the stories out there and all that. So I want to see to it that I am okay with everything that will happen. So you, as a family member, me, I'm standing in for my sister in Germany and the whole family. So you are representing me, Shadrach family, everybody there. So please tell them to hold on. Let our doctor come. They should give us one more chance today, so that we will see that justice will truly prevail. And my sister said, okay, she will do. So I was there surprisingly. Shadrach's father called me that that relative called him to convince him that whether our doctor is there or not, they can still go through the postmortem. I said, no, it is never done anywhere. We are the family, and we need to be satisfied with everything that will go on the body. Our lawyer is there. Okay, some of the family members are there, but they are not medically inclined that they can understand everything that will go on there. So please, they should stop. I said they have already done it. I said, so I drove from the embassy. I left the children there, and I drove to the policeman. When I got there, they have already finished.
Okay, so you are saying that the police statement says the family agreed for the autopsy to be done by their health official. You are saying that the family did not agree for that to be done.
They convinced my family to understand.
So some of them agreed eventually.
Yeah. I was not around. According to that, my sister, she said the doctor said he will not be around today. He's traveling, and I told her that he is not the only police doctor that can operate on my brother. So if he is traveling, let him go. For the sake of justice, let him go. Then they should find another doctor that will collaborate with our own doctor. What is the crime in this one? What is the rush for? So therefore, they eventually did the autopsy. So, my question is, if they are saying that they have done all investigations and whatever, he swallowed weed in which is wrapped in rubber. Then they found 8 folded wheat inside. Maybe Sogah for say weed in nkruma. Weed obi to me many weed rubber in nkruma to me many easy sir. The time that he was swallowing it, have they given us a footage of that time he was swallowing the weed, and he didn't struggle. He swallowed the weed easily like that. So my stand is, because they didn't wait for our doctor to come inside the operation, I will not accept it. My family too, they are saying they will not accept whatever they brought out.
So as far as you are concerned, what's your suspicion in terms of what was found by way of the autopsy report?
So my suspicion is already we have footage of the action, how the brutalization was going on, how they were handcuffing him, beating him, stepping on his back, holding his legs, touching him with a teaser. All these things, we have it in footage. But the police did not include it in their statement. That means they have swept away everything apart from what they are saying, indicating that it is only the weed that causes death. Do you understand my case?
Yeah, I get you. So specifically, you think that because they ignored the other issues about how he was beaten, you don't believe that they found weed?
It could be that when they took his body to the morgue, police morgue, somebody planted the weed inside his throat, so that when our lawyer will be standing there, he will see that, oh, I've seen weed.
I mean, that's quite a serious allegation.
Yes, I'm saying it. So they should provide how he was swallowing it, because the whole for justice to prevail, the whole more they have CCTV camera everywhere, and they are saying they captured all the actions. So they should provide why the guy was able to swallow that substance without struggling, without choking, without vomiting. He swallowed it easily like that. And according to the report, they said after he swallowed, then he fainted, then he died. That means there was no any brutalized, or there was no any beating or handcuffing or struggling or that teaser they used to shock him. So the police will answer us in court.
So specifically, is it your request that a fresh autopsy should be done by an independent doctor, perhaps? Is that what you're asking for?
They have to do it. Even right now, as I'm saying, even if they have cleaned all the evidences, how can I tell? So if you are saying that that is the only thing that killed him, then you are going to provide the footage. Then you are going to answer how come you didn't find any evidence of how they tortured him, how they brutalized him, and all that thing. You didn't see anything apart from that weed. So you show us the reason why you didn't see all these traces, but we saw it in the video. Okay, so are you covering up for somebody?
Yeah, so for now, finally, what's the next line of action for the family?
We we are taking them to court. And they will hear from us because we are not buying this. We indicated that they should allow us bring our own doctor. And they said the doctor the police doctor that is going to do the autopsy is traveling, so they don't have patience for us to bring a doctor. Even that day, the time yesterday, the time they gave us was too early. Early in the morning, 6 o'clock. It can be that our doctor was stuck in traffic. What is the rush for? What do you want to cover? Like, who are you covering up for? So we are still demanding justice. They can't tell us that what they have brought out is the real fact of the issue. So everybody should forget the evidences we have seen in on social media and all that.
Well, more reaction is beginning to greet this. MP for Jomoro, Dorcas Afortofe, debunks the police assertion that the family agreed to allow the police pathologist to do the autopsy alone, which the family is also refusing.
It's just too many inconsistencies in their statement. First of all, I'm looking at the statement, the one that was released yesterday on the first page, number 7. It says that at the meeting, the parties were given the option to have the post-mortem examination conducted by pathologists of their choice. Yeah. First of all, that is not true. We were not given that option. It was the families that spoke to us that they would not be comfortable to allow the pathologists from the hospital, the police department to do the full examination. So if it would be okay, they would ask that we can add their own private doctor. So we discussed it with the pathologist of the police service, and he agreed. But at nowhere, I mean, there was nothing that we had the full option to take the body to a private examiner to do the autopsy. That would have been the best. Anyway, in any case, who watches the watchman? The person that got killed and the police people are alleged that they were part of the whole process. Yeah, they are the one doing the investigation, the postmortem and all that. And now they come up with a report, saying all kinds of things. For me, where I stand as a member of parliament, a legislator, I am insisting that the unprofessionalism of the police, the negligence of the police, and their bad policing led to the death of this young man.
So I would want a clarification here. Point 7, which you referred to, says that at the meeting, the parties were giving the option to have the post-mortem examination conducted by a pathologist of their choice. But they all agreed that the police pathologist should conduct the examination.
So, and that is what I want to debunk. It is never true. It was never true. That was never the case. And the lawyer would have to come out and debunk that or say something to that effect. It was never true. They were the one that were going to do the examination or the autopsy. The family, however, the family were not comfortable to have them alone to do the examination. And so they suggested that it would be okay for them to have their own private medical pathologist or doctor to be there.
Okay. So Honorable, what are you going to do now?
What I'm going to do now is still seek for justice. I'm still asking the IGP to bring those officers that were there that day to books, because they are equally responsible. Their unprofessionalism, negligence, and their bad policing led to the death, contributed to the death of this young man.
Well, the position of the Jomoro MP there, pathologist Professor Say Company, has been reacting to the development. He believes the family should have had their own medical professional present during the autopsy.
Whatever happened prior to the man's death, the doctor will record it. In fact, autopsies of this nature, but basically at all autopsies, we are encouraged to take photographs. In fact, professional, so that in fact the photographs are to be done professionally, because there are times that some of these pictures will be taken and then be spreading all over, and which of course I must admit that if one dies, his privacy is also paramount. So we make sure that the pictures are not circulated anyhow. So we usually either ask family member who can be trusted to take the photograph as the autopsy is being done. Or maybe in the case of the police, they can also take photographs, whoever is interested, but of course, the pictures must be protected such that it doesn't find they don't find their way into the public domain. So I believe that, like I said, the doctor who conducted the autopsy is surely going to write full report.
Okay.
And then if there was any brutality, like the honorable member is claiming, there were any form of brutalities, any form of assault, all of them will be recorded. In fact, there's something called tissue reaction. After death, in fact, prior to death, whatever has happened to you will be shown. I mean, during autopsy or after death. So basically, there shouldn't be any cause to be worried as far as the honorable member is concerned.
Expert opinion there. I want to bring in now criminologist Dr. John Supokuware. He's a lecturer at the Department of Sociology and Social Works, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Thank you, sir, for your time here on The Pulse. I mean, just run us through what the standard procedure is when carrying out, for instance, an autopsy, just to ascertain the veracity of what may have led to, for instance, the death of this individual that's at stake here.
Okay, thank you very much, and very good afternoon to you and also your viewers. I mean, once the process is established in terms of a case of murder or someone, being killed, it is important that the police take over. And once the police take over, a medical form is issued, and then we require the pathologist to be able to go through the process of carrying out the investigation in terms of identifying what might have caused the death of the person. So normally, the police refer these kind of cases to their medical officers, and their medical officers are the ones that carry out these autopsies. However, there have been situations where some, let's say, disagreements have come up, like what we are experiencing currently in terms of the outcome of some of these autopsy reports. And so the families have the right to also seek a second opinion, and then they'll be able to use that to determine what actually might have been the cause of murder.
Okay, so that's the standard practice. Here you have a case, you've seen the statement, the police statement, and also heard from the relatives of Shadrach. You've heard both sides on this matter. I'm wondering who's at fault here?
Well, I don't think anybody is at fault. I mean, the police are doing their job. They think that using the standard operating procedure, they are supposed to refer the case to the medical officers for them to do their test and to determine what probably might have killed the person involved. However, the family are also raising issues and certain doubt about the process. And for me, the process and how it is carried out can raise some of these kind of doubts in the minds of the parties that are involved. And I think that based on the fact that the police seems to have rushed through the process, that is what is creating this kind of doubt for the family. And so basically, it is about the family also trying to get things right and to know what actually transpired, resulting in the death of their relative. So it is not about who is right and who is wrong. It's about making sure that the right procedures are followed, and therefore we are able to meet everybody in terms of the suspicions and being able to carry out an investigation that actually reflects the true state of affairs when it comes to the death of the gentleman.
The family has confirmed to us that they were not present when that autopsy report was published, not even present when the process was going on. Will that take away the shine, the integrity of the investigative processes?
Yes, looking at how contested the situation we have now is, I mean, ideally, it would have been great if the police have exhausted all the process, especially in getting the families involved. Some of these, the police over the years have been suffering from, integrity issues. I mean, when it comes to, trust levels, I mean, we have all Afrobarometer reports and other reports that seems to point to some kind of, mistrust by the public in the police service. So if the police is on, a mission to rebuild their integrity and to get a lot of trust from the public, it is important that such kind of, situations, they make it so accountable for everybody in terms of the parties that are involved. But where the process is shrouded in secrecy, where some people have to be rushed through a certain process, then it creates certain doubts in the minds of people. And as I was watching what one of the family members was saying, that is exactly the kind of scenario that is playing out. There is some form of doubt, and they are questioning the rashness of the process. Immediately a process is rushed, then issues of doubt will begin to people will begin to ask and begin to question, what is it about the rush? Who are we trying to protect? Who are we trying to cover up for? And already the police suffered that kind of crisis and deficit over the period based on some actions and inactions of the institution over the years. And so if we are seeking to correct such kind of impression, then I'm of the view that the police should take their time, go through all the process, involve the family members, let everybody understand that nothing is ill-intentioned, and therefore whatever process that is being undertaken is to the benefit of everybody, and to be able to bring finality to the issue at hand.
A few issues that we need to just take a second look at. First of all, the police failed to narrate what the cause of arrest was in their statement. We'll look at that shortly. But how is it possible that someone dealing in narcotics is able to swallow, per what we're being told by that statement from the police, at least 8 different bags of Indian hemp? I mean, I'm just trying to wrap my head around, around that situation. Is it really possible that someone is able to do that?
Well, I mean, if you look at the crime literature and if you look at police and criminal operations over that period, I mean, so many people have been arrested across the world where people have swallowed, let me say, a lot of kilos of drugs, especially cocaine, even in condoms. Okay, so people's ability to swallow drugs, and especially drugs that are wrapped, it's not something new. People can do that. Okay, but then we have to look at the scenario that played out. I mean, at what point did that incident happen? Do we have any evidence that the person was swallowing or swallowed some kind of contraband at that point in time? And then be able to establish whether truly that is the situation that happened. And now if you look at the account of the person, I mean, based on the lady that was speaking, she is of the view that the brother didn't have any such kind of contraband. And if there are certain, CCTVs and all these things around, and I'm thinking that we should be able to look at the videotape and then ascertain whether that really happened. But in terms of, such incidents happen, there's always a history to it, and people have, over the period, been able to swallow huge kilos of drugs, whether they are cocaine or marijuana. It happens. So it's not something that I will say over here, it's not a possibility. It is actually a possibility. People can do that.
Wow, that would be an amazing skill to have. 8 bags in less than a minute upon arrest. That's what the police is telling us.
Exactly, and I mean, that is where the suspicion comes. There's always the tendency for people to be able to swallow, but then you have to look at the chain of events. I mean, how can someone do that within that space of time? Because, I mean, if you look at some of the criminal arrests that have been made across the world in terms of people that have been arrested with drugs, I mean, those that have swallowed drugs into their body, you will see that they do that over a period of time. You cannot swallow drugs within that short period of time, especially looking at the number of wraps that the police claim the person might have swallowed within that short period of time. That is quite questionable. And I think that the police probably will have to come out much better and provide more evidence to that kind of thing happening if their story is to be believed.
Do you feel that the family, and let's not be fixated on the police, the family, the police service, they are all not able to tell us at this point what the cause of arrest was? They all seem to be silent on that factor.
It's quite sad, and I think that by now the police should have been able to, tell the Ghanaian public and the family what really the cause is, and that is why I'm advocating that if we have these CCTV cameras all over the place, I mean, why can't you just obtain the footage, look at what actually happened, the chain of events, and then establish the actual cause of what happened that resulted in the death of the man in question? But if the police are only giving us accounts that are very vague, that are very ambiguous, then that is where the suspicion is created. That is where people begin to now raise questions about their procedure for arrest and also their motive. And so for me, that is where we have to look at. Can the police give us much detailed information about the chain of events, what really happened, and provide us with evidence to support us so that when the public speaks or when people are complaining, we will be able to understand where to put the issues, in terms of their context and perspective. So the police must do more.
Very finally, the Inspector General of Police, this is someone who's shown over time that is very much proactive on these matters. What's your expectation from the leadership of the police service?
Well, I think that the current IGP, when it comes to issues like this, over the period have been swift, and I'm not expecting anything, different when it comes to how he's supposed to approach this one too. And now this is about the loss of lives. Okay, you don't know how much that life meant to some people. Okay, so for me, once a person is killed in such a manner, or the death of a person is occasioned in such a manner, what we have to do is to bring all the state apparatus, to be able to resolve the murder, to be able to resolve the death, so that we can bring finality to the family. And in the process, the police is also able to build, their trust levels, and people will begin to have confidence in them. Once that is not done, and then we try to, frustrate the process with some form of encumbrances, it becomes very, very difficult for the police to achieve, public trust and then gain the kind of integrity that they expect to have from the public. And for me, that is quite worrying.
Are we far from settling this case?
Well, I think that looking at the way the police is reacting to the issue in terms of that kind of cloudness, around the issue, I think that if the police are not very open and transparent, then we have a long way to go, because the family already is threatening, legal action against the police. And I think that the police wouldn't want the issue to drag that long. They should just show the family some respect, get to them, involve them in the whole process, let the issue be open, because who are they protecting? The police must understand that if there is a single individual, it's like the case of Jonah and the whale. If there's a Jonah in the ship that is causing the ship to sink, we should throw the person overboard. So if there's a certain individual within the police that through their acts gives the police service the bad name and stand in the way of the kind of integrity the police want to build in recent times, then we must bring the person out and make sure that we deal with all these kind of police people that are trigger happy and are kind of very violent in the way they carry out their activities. So for me, the police must take this as a serious case to build and to rebuild their integrity.
Well, it's interesting how in that biblical story, someone is still doing the swallowing. But we'll leave that for some time later. Dr. Opoku-Ware, thank you for your time here on The Pulse. I'm grateful. And today on The Pulse as well, don't forget that we're looking at that conversation with the former MP for Mampong, Francis Adainimo, who's also running for president. He will tell us why he's the best candidate for the NPP. We'll explore that after this break. Please stay. We are your election headquarters. We're keeping our eyes on that internal race of the New Patriotic Party. On The Pulse today, we welcome former MP for Mampong, Francis Adainimo, who has set sights on the highest office in the land. An engineer by profession, Mr. Adainimo brings a wealth of experience and, of course, passion to his bid for the flag bearership position of the New Patriotic Party. Well, join us as we delve into his plans for what he terms a better future for the country, and hear directly from the man himself who has ambitions to become the next president of the land. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And it's good to see you returning at a time when, of course, you've made that clearly to us that, of course, now is the time you're going all out. You want to become president. Last time I asked you, you were not too sure. You said, well, if the party wants me to serve, I will serve. Now you say you are the best person to represent the NPP. Why?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me extend my appreciation to JoyNews for the coverage, the live coverage that was granted to my official announcement to seek the leadership nomination of the MPP last week.
Right.
So I commend JoyNews for that. Well, sometime last year, I was with you in this studio, and the question was posed to me, will you seek the leadership nomination? And I said, let's give ourselves some time.
Right.
Because I was doing more and more consultations with people, with friends, with family members, with all kinds of people. And finally, I've come to that conclusion. And last week, Wednesday, I did not hide, I did not mince words, but I was emphatic that at the opening of nomination of the new Patriotic Party, Francis Adainimo will seek the leadership nomination of the party.
Well,
now,
yeah.
The party has been in government, and this is the 7th year, and I am championing the cause for a fresh, new face.
That's how you describe it?
That is how I describe it, to lead the party. And the premise for which I'm championing this cause is that, I mean, there is always the tendency for facial fatigue once you have stayed on for a certain number of years. So people have listened to you, people have interacted with you. At the point they will ask the basic question, so what again? And that is why sometimes you take a departure and then you reactivate and then you come back. Now, the historical fact we have politically in the country is that from 1993, under the Fourth Republic, the two dominant parties, none has been able to go beyond 8 years. And therefore, in the year 2000, when the then sitting Vice President Atta Mills was a candidate again for NDC, he could not break the 8. Then come 2008, when the current president, Nana Akufo-Addo, was a minister in J. Kufuor's administration after MPP 8 years. He became our candidate.
Right.
There we could also not break the 8. 2016, sitting President John Mahama also could not make it. So it should tell us that that is the pattern. And so the party should learn from that and say that let us take a departure from it.
And here's where your critics blame you. They say, well, it was intentional. And for instance, it's part of the reasons why you didn't want to serve in President Akufo-Addo's administration. You knew very well that, well, we'll get to this point where there'll be a new search for a new face for the party. So it was a political strategy from your part.
No, not at all, Blessed. And for your viewers, your cherished viewers, not at all. Because what was the offer that was given to me for appointment in this administration? And people said I was offered a position as road fund administrator. And I have questioned that. In law, do we have such a position? And the answer is no. So that position in the first place doesn't exist. So how could I occupy such a position in the public sector, knowing that the public sector is regulated by legal framework? And so for every position, it must be backed by either the Constitution or by...
So that's why you turned that down?
Well, I drew the attention of the appointing authority. I drew the attention of the appointing authority. And Blessed, you know what? Granted that Adainimo declined, who occupied that position or who is occupying that position now?
Right.
There is no occupant of that position. And so it reinforces my understanding that, yes, there couldn't have been an offer and a rejection.
Okay, that granted. That aside, we know that you're not the only one in the race.
Sure.
There are about 9 other names that we're hearing. And even if you take, well, the likes of the Vice President, Alan Chermating, their Greek minister, you still have a couple of individuals there that have not fairly, I mean, to say, not served in government. They've not been, well, that frontline individual for the NPP. So they fall within the same category of your description for a new phase.
Not really.
Why should Francis Adainimo be that option, the one standing out of that pack?
Not really. The other individuals whose names we are hearing. As at now, the race hasn't begun. So we are all expressing our interest. The other individuals, let me say, Honorable Jogate was a former Minister for Railway Development, and Honorable Boache Jalkun was the former Minister for Energy. Honorable Kennedy Japan,
yes.
He's the board chairman for Ghana Gas.
Okay, so you're finding a way to still link him, link him to the
government.
And
he's also not only Ghana Gas as board chairman, but also a board member for Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority, which used to be called Town and Country Planning Department. So he is there. Dr. Kofi Kunodo Apreku
was out of the country.
Not directly involved,
yes,
but he needed the backing of his home government to be a commissioner at the ECOWAS Secretariat.
Right.
So the only person, which we, together with me, is my brother, the former General Secretary, Kwamina J. Japan, Engineer Kwamina J. Japan. And the two of us are all civil engineers.
Interesting.
Yes, and the two of us have not served in this administration. And so we are calling for the fresh face because of the historical fact, you know, and it is clear there's certainly going to be facial fatigue. And so those who want to criticize me must criticize me on the facts that I am touting. Are those facts there? If they are not there, then you can't take me on that, look, Adainimo, we disagree with you. But for now, that is it. The new phase comes with a fresh appeal.
Okay.
You know, it comes with a fresh appeal. It comes to revitalize, to revive, and rejuvenate the membership of the rank and file of the party. Right now, we need to maximize our internal strength for 2024. So long as we are determined as a party to break the age. And you know, in life, if you want to set a record, you have got to be sober, you have got to be calm, you have got to be very detailed and meticulous and strategic in all that you do, so that at the end you cause a surprise.
And that's why you're calling for the new phase. But how then, and I'm just wondering, how then will you account for, if we should call it, the sins of the past? Your administration, and by extension I'm talking about the New Patriotic Party administration, may have had some downsides. You're not solely going to be campaigning if they give you the nod without looking at some of the track records, the gains of the NPP administration in the past. So who would then account for some of these issues if indeed we are to go for that new phase that you're calling for?
No, I mean, certainly you are going to campaign on the record of a previous administration of J.A. Kufuor, campaign on the record of the current administration of Nana Akufo-Addo, and then what the future you have for the country.
So if you've not been part of it, how do you account for it then?
Well, I mean, you have to speak to the issues. Those which are positive issues, you speak to them. Those which we think could have been done in a different way, where you need to admit that there have been some unpleasant or shortfalls, you would have to speak to those things and admit. After all, it is a family. And in a family, we cover one another. We try to stay together. You don't isolate yourself or dissociate yourself from that. But then, you as the new leader, you come up with your own appeal in terms of unblemishedness of your track record, in terms of your ability to endear yourself to the people. That look, yes, the administration has done so much. There's also the possibility to improve upon it. Areas that we have not covered, let us see how we can. Let's take, for instance, free senior high school education. All of us, it is our desire that every child, every person born in Ghana should enter school and be able to have education to the minimum level of senior high school. So that is the desire of all of us. And the question will be, how do we ensure a sustained funding for it whilst ensuring the quality of our educational standards? These are the two things. So if we need to look at the funding aspect and it is problematic to government and to the state, we talk to Ghanaians and call on people who have the capacity or the ability or can afford to pay for their wards or their children, And those who cannot, we address the situation.
Okay, we'll talk about that new direction and why you feel you should be the one leading that charge. But before we get there, one of your counterparts, your colleagues who's also in this race, the former trades minister, has made a statement that sparked a lot of controversy. The fact that by the next elections in 2024, you may have some difficulties as the governing party crafting a campaign message. He's of the opinion that you may have some difficulties there.
Well,
you side with him on that?
No, I would disagree. I would disagree. We are not there yet. We still have about 22 months to the next general
but the facts are there, that the economy is not well.
Yes, I agree.
Some things are not okay with the economy.
Admittedly, the economy is not doing well. There are challenges because of the heavy debt on our neck. But government is taking steps to address it. And that is why the domestic debt exchange program, government is working on it, which closed yesterday. Right. We also have our external debt servicing program that we have to do. And government is talking to IMF for injection of about $3 billion US dollars into the economy. Blessed, and for your cherished viewers, who can predict what will happen by the close of the year? Maybe by the close of the year, the economic situation will improve. It improves up to the first quarter of next year, up to the second quarter of next year. How long does it take to craft a campaign message? Overnight, within a twinkle of an eye.
Are you then saying you're hopeful that the economy will turn around by 2024?
Sure. I am hopeful that there will be some improvement in the economy in terms of the macroeconomic indicators, inflation, CD, exchange rate, interest rate. I'm hoping.
Are you not being overly ambitious? Because all the predictions from the IMF, a growth rate somewhere hovering around 2%.
Yes.
The IMF policy is just taking off. Some say everything may come to perfection by the time we're done with the IMF conditionality, which is much more beyond 2 years. So are you not overly ambitious?
No, we are not. And I'm sure that President Akufo-Addo knows that we have elections ahead of us. So government expenditure will also have to be scrutinized into details. Unnecessary expenditures will have to be avoided so that we can have some savings and then put those monies into other productive ventures of the economy. And so it is possible. Yes, it cannot be achieved maybe within the next 6 months, 3 months, 9 months. But there can be a gradual improvement. And so if there's a gradual improvement and prices have stabilized, the living standards of people are beginning to improve, the cost of living is beginning to go down for people, the value for money, then why not? Why can't you craft a message that, look, we have been able to turn the economy around in this shortest possible time by this percentage? And that will be
so you may have a message by
then. We will have a message.
For you,
for that statement, I certainly disagree.
You disagree with him. But by then, your party may have been done with the internal process of selecting the next leader. So given the fact that, well, you're also standing, you stand that chance of being elected. If by then you are the one leading the New Patriotic Party, what message will you be selling to the people of Ghana? What's on your heart that you feel, well, this is where we are in 2024. This is where I want to take the country to in the next 4 years after that? Well,
I'll make reference to my 7-point policy development that I outlined last week's Wednesday. And the first one is on agriculture, because as a people, we should be able to feed ourselves. So we should focus on agriculture and achieve food sufficiency and food security. And then the slogan will be that no Ghanaian should go to bed, to work, or to school hungry.
Okay.
So we should be able to produce enough to cover our carbohydrate needs, our protein needs, and then our vitamins and mineral needs as a people. Having secured that, then your health and your education, these two social sectors are crucial for the development of every individual. So we will also focus on health and education. And in terms of health, my thinking and policy direction will be it's better to prevent than to cure. So we'll go for
preventive health.
Preventive measures. If we can prevent the occurrence of malaria, why don't we take appropriate action to prevent it from occurring? Then we can save some monies that we have to use to import drugs into the country for the treatment of malaria. That is just an example. So prevention approach to healthcare service delivery will be focused on much more than going for the curative aspect of healthcare delivery services. Then education.
I'm interested in that.
In education, we need to look at technical, vocational, and skills training. That should be able to help most of the youth to put themselves into, productive ventures for themselves, you know. And a typical example is Japan, after World War II, was destroyed. Hiroshima, the capital, was destroyed, and Nagasaki was also destroyed. But through technical, vocational skills and training, they were able to come up. And today, they are forced to reckon with in technology. And look at the auto industry. Not only the auto industry, most sectors of the world economy, they are playing very key role. So that is one area. If we have achieved free senior high school education, then the attention now will focus on technical.
I'm glad that you're mentioning the free senior high school policy because there are varied opinions on that. Some experts are saying, let's review, let's allow parents who are able to afford, pay something, and we're able to make up for the losses and some of the challenges that are confronting the senior high schools now. What's your assessment of that policy measure? And having run that for over 5 years now, its concurrent drain on the budget and all that it comes with, what should we be revising about the policy?
Well, that is why I made a point. You know, I talked about the sustainability, having a sustained funding for it, and then the quality. So the policy to have all school age people to reach senior high school level, I agree with it. So some parents are capable of affording to pay for their awards. Why don't we allow them? So in reviewing it, it's just on the funding issue, and then in terms of the quality of education that we also will receive. And this, I'll agree with what some time ago Ken Oforiatta said.
The finance minister.
Yes, what he said, that if he has the ability to afford to pay, why wouldn't he pay? And so we have to look at it. And it's about communicating.
The biggest political selling point, the fact that the NPP claims ownership over the policy, most of the time when you go on any of the campaign platforms, that's what you sell first to the people, that we have delivered free senior high school. And when we say it's free, it's free. That's what you told the people.
Yes.
Would they forgive you if you change anything?
No, we are not changing. The policy is there, but we are saying that is the funding. So if the funding is problematic, why don't we talk to our own citizens? Because we are all Ghanaians, and we all agree that we should have such an educational policy. So at this time, the funding is somehow unsustainable or problematic to government. It affects other sectors of the economy. So why don't you call on parents who have the capacity to support government to deliver on that? I think that is as simple as that. So besides, let me go on with the 7 points. Besides the health and education, then you have to look at employment and entrepreneurship. And within the youthful group, people are looking for employment. So the measures that will be taken where people can do their private work or they can work for private companies, as in the case of your good self, you are multimedia, or at a point you may decide to work for yourself. Or you work for a government institution. So with these three categories. And we know that the public sector is always limited in terms of employment. So the policy on how to expand the economy for the private sector to thrive and absorb the many, many young ones who will be coming out of tertiary institutions and other institutions so that they can have jobs. But we also will have to urge the young people that they can also work for themselves. And the training that they will receive alongside will help.
When your flyer went out, I received a message from some of the beneficiaries of NAPCO. I wish I could read that message out, but let me just paraphrase what it says. They want to know what the future holds for all of these 100,000 youth who are now very unsure and certain about what the future of that policy would be. What plans do you have for instance, some intermediate interventions in creating jobs for the youth, looking at what's happened to NAPCO, YEA, and some of the NYA programs as well?
Well, I would say that we would have to see how some of them can receive training in terms of technical, vocational, and skills acquisition. And then they can begin to do something for themselves. And then we must also encourage some of them that farming is also lucrative. But most often we assume that if you are a farmer, then it is not lucrative. Myself sitting here today, every year I try to do some acreage of maize farm, you know. And therefore, the youth must be encouraged. They must be told that looking for a job is not only the white collar job, where I get up in the morning, take my shower, put on my clothing, if I'm a lady with my skirt blouse and a bag, if I'm a young man with my tie, and I'm off to work to sit behind the table and this paper comes and that, no. You know, our economy too has a very huge informal sector. And there's so much money in the informal sector. So the training that we will offer to the young ones, the exposure that we will offer to them, some will realize that yes, there are other ventures that they can enter into, be productive, and then they can take good care of themselves, and they even can become employers. They can also become employers. So that is the fourth point. The fifth one, we need to enhance on our infrastructure development. Roads, water systems, bridges, telecommunication, energy. And then one important thing is the maintenance culture. Our ability as a people to maintain public infrastructure so that they do not deteriorate as fast as possible after they have been constructed. Then the last point will be our ability to complete all abandoned projects.
You'll be doing that?
Sure. Because these are projects which have been abandoned, which governments from when have spent a lot of money into it, investment, and they have not been completed, and they are not being made useful to the citizens of this country. Then why did you go into it?
You feel it's a waste of public funds?
Yes, and we need to complete all such projects so that they become useful to the citizens of.
And I'm sure that you're heavy on infrastructure because this is where your expertise comes to play. There are two outstanding issues. We're just earlier announcing that we'll be talking about the Accra-Tema motorway. You've seen the original plan for it. It's no longer a motorway in the opinion of some experts as well. What should we be doing about the redesigning of that?
Right now, Accra-Tema motorway requires reconstruction.
Totally?
Absolutely. That is my professional opinion. It requires, it's a two-lane dual carriage. Now we would have to reconstruct and extend it maybe to 3 or 4 lanes dual carriage. As at now, the concrete surface, a lot of damage has been caused. The driving quality is bad for people, and so it has outlived its span. A project that was undertaken in the 60s.
Yeah.
How many years ago? Maybe.
And we just
50,
keep patching.
50 years ago. Yes. And most of these projects will have a lifespan of about 25, 30 years. So we need to carry out a major reconstruction. The reconstruction may not require the use of concrete surfacing. There are other materials. It can't just be ordinary asphalt that we can do a 4-lane on both sides of the dual carriage. Not only the Accra-Tema motorway, but the central corridor of our road network, Accra-Kumasi.
Okay, so you are not just looking at this corridor that we're talking about now. You want us to extend to the Ashanti region?
Yes, I mean, within that corridor.
Okay.
I mean, if you have traveled on the Accra-Kumasi Road recently, you can see the deterioration. In fact, the portion between Pokuase and Insawam is terrible. And that, I know there's a contract on it, and so we can urge government and the contractor to speed up the rate of progress on that project. Not only that section, but almost the entire section from Accra to Kumasi requires some maintenance activity to be undertaken on. And then throughout the entire country, our road network, if you go to the hinterland, you'll notice that, yes, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work.
Okay.
Otherwise, if we leave it as it is now, for the next year, for the next 2 years, and when the rains come, some areas will be cut off.
You're saying that you'd be dealing with abandoned projects. There's one that's generating a lot of controversy, which has got to do with a matter of faith, because the president says it's his pledge to his maker, our God, to construct a national cathedral. That cathedral, I'm sure you've been to the site, you've seen the edifice, the plan, and what will go into it. It's becoming obvious that that project may not be completed next year or this year. Well, at least given what the president and the experts are telling us, they are targeting to finish by the end of his term. If that project runs into another administration and say you were president, what should we be doing about the National Cathedral?
I know the controversy surrounding the National Cathedral. Yes. The question is, what is the necessity for that project? You know, what is the necessity for that project? And people have, and of course I also agree that there are other infrastructure that we could also use to serve the same purpose for the purposes of national gathering. If it is for the religious faith, the Christian faith, we know that they all have their other edifices that they use to congregate and carry out their religious activities. So the fundamental question was, what is the necessity for that project?
Okay, we'll leave that question for the president to answer. And now, as we wrap up this conversation, there's the 9 others who are competing with you. I'll ask you your thoughts about who else will be better if you're not the one there. But let's deal with the date for the presidential primaries, because it's an issue that's come up within your party. Some want an early Congress. Others feel, well, let's delay the process. Let's have it by next year so the candidates, of course, can collaborate with the president and work together to campaign vigorously in 2024. What's your take on this whole disagreement over the date?
Blizzard, I think there should not be any hula baloo about the date for the conduct of this year's flag bearer elections. In fact, the last competitive flag bearer election was held in 2014, over 8 years ago, and this is now going to be the next one. The only reference we can make to, if the party is in government, when do we have the flag bearer election? It's 2007, where it was held in December 2007. Clearly 11 months to the general elections of 2008. So the party's constitution makes the provision that not later than 24 months.
Okay, that opening is there.
That opening is there. And then it narrows it that in case the party is in government, that opening, that time frame should not exceed 11 months to the next general elections. So for me, we are in February now. National Council has not decided when nominations should be open. The process may take 6 months. If it will take 6 months, granted that it opens in March. So we add 6 months to it, we are somewhere getting to September. You know, if it doesn't open in March and it goes, yes. So there is no hula baloo for people to think that maybe what is the early Congress? Those who may be preaching or advocating for August, it is not possible. August is not possible unless we want to shorten the time process.
Filing, nomination,
yes, we want to shorten it. But we cannot do that. The reason is you need to allow people to have the time to traverse the length and breadth of this country in the 275 constituencies to go and talk to delegates. You are dealing with delegates of about 208,000. It's not a joke. It's not 20,000 or 50,000. 208,000 delegates. Where multimedia is situated is within the Ayawaso Central.
Right.
And delegates in Ayawaso Central may be around 1,300 or 1,400. And you need to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Then to talk about the other places or other constituencies.
So August may not.
So I foresee, this is my personal view, that it's possible we can have it in October, November, or December. But certainly I will not support going beyond December 2023.
We need to wrap up. There are 9 others. It's general elections for within your party. Anything may happen. If Francis Adainimo is not elected flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, who else should?
Yeah, apart from Francis Adainimo, I don't have any name in mind. Is it? So I'm competing against my good self. So I mean that is what my answer would be. Apart from Francis Adainimo, I don't have anybody in mind.
So he says he's the best candidate for the New Patriotic Party, and obviously he'll be joining us once more before that contest here in studio to talk about how the campaign is going. But for now, I want to say a big thank you to Francis Adainimo, who's the presidential hopeful of the New Patriotic Party, for joining us. But on now to some other issues. Some motorists who apply the Accra-Tema motorway are calling on government to remove the dilapidated and abandoned toll booth stalls that sit in the middle of the road. At least 2 of these stalls have been run down by vehicles in 2022 alone, resulting in several casualties. Meanwhile, checks show that some homeless persons have found shelters in these booths. Michael Ashale has more in our latest episode of our series on the motorway dubbed the Deadly Highway.
2022, a man diesel truck from Tema crashed into one of the toll booths while heading towards Accra.
Small car be like outer lane. I said, Musuno was at your break. Or tapu break. If you want to break lights, so I'm a tapu here. It's also to anything. Yeah, for the dangers are many. You know, this toll booth here, so far since its closure, there have been more than 100 accidents, of which at least close to 50 individuals have already died here. Yeah, do entrance now. Then small car be like outer lane. I said, Kawaya Fano, Jaivon, was a Uramanu. Uramusuno was at your break. Or tapu break. If you want to break lights, so I'm a tapu here. It's also to anything.
Musa notes that the rate of accidents
for
around
the dangers are many. You know, this toll booth here, so far since its closure, there have been more than 100 accidents, of which at least close to 50 individuals have already died here.
Let my people go. That's the fresh voice of the individual pension bond holders, adding their call to be exempted from the domestic debt exchange. Day 1 of their action ended with a one-on-one audience with the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, who explained to them why government is unable to meet their demands. The resolved retirees gathered again at the Ministry of Finance Tuesday to press home that same demand. Well, for today, they picketed again at the ministry, but there was still no audience granted them by any government official. My colleague James Kwesi once more, of course, went to the Finance Ministry, interacted with some of them, and here's what we found out.
Continue to stay here until the minister he's to apply it. We are pensioners. We don't work. He said he has given us 15% and then extended the period for another 5 years. For some people, their bonds are maturing just next year. Already, we are in a very volatile and uncertain environment. He's paying treasury bills close to 40%. We are just even getting 19, 20, 21%. And even with that, your intention is to extend this for further. It won't work for us. We don't work. This is all we depend on. For some of us, we don't even have T-bills. All we have is this. So what we need him to do is to just heed to our request and take us out. Our understanding is that whether he includes us or take us out, he'll probably reach his target. So just take us out and let us have what we're asking for.
So you are still hopeful that government will listen to you?
We are very hopeful. If he doesn't listen to us, we'll continue to be here, maybe until we expire from the earth, if that's what government is looking for. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
I only ask him to exempt the pensioners from the DDEP. That's my message. Just that.
You as an individual, how bad is this posture from government, the resilient, not to hit to your call? How bad is it affecting you and will affect you going forward? Should government still stand by their terms of they are giving to you?
Right. Much as we are in a pension regime, we still have children going to school. That you should take note of. We are also taking care of our medical bills. We are still taking care of everything that we need to. Fuel prices have gone up. Is that not a way of contributing? We haven't stopped paying taxes in our private lives. So why would you want to continue touching this? For me, I've worked for over 39 years. I've contributed my quota. So what is due me have been put in there, and you want to touch that one as well? I mean, I think the government can be that considerate and will be in a position to assist us. That's my message.
What would be your suggestion to government? They said they needed the money and the numbers. Apart from, so if they should grant your demand by exempting you, what other alternative would you suggest to them?
The road tolls could be brought back. That has not ceased. And the government should also look at cutting down on its expenditure. I don't know why they don't want to. Quite recently, various appointments have been made. And what does that mean? What is that message going? A minister of finance has been appointed at the Jubilee House. What does that mean? We are in crisis, or we are in this trouble together, and more appointments are being made. What are you telling us? You're telling us that we are not in any problem. He has the money. But that is their business. Our business is that our hard-earned funds should be released to us. That's all. And we use them for, like I told you, our medical bills, pay for our children's school fees, and that kind of thing. And they should try and be very considerate to release our funds to us. Thank you. Thank you, too.
You should have a one-on-one with the finance minister or the president this morning. What will be your message to them?
I will just say, please let these people go. And if the Minister of Finance has the quotation, I don't have the quotation. Let my people go. That's all that I will tell the President and the Minister of Finance. That let my people go. They cannot do what you want them to do. If you have left the able-bodied people to go by saying that I'm protecting your pension life and therefore I won't touch this, so that when you go home you don't suffer. it doesn't make sense to me that you say, as for those who are there, they should suffer. Why would you do that? If you are protecting the unborn child, do you push the child that you have already given birth to the gutter so that he dies? You know. So it's the morality of it is very weak. That people who are yet to come on pensions, you know, when they come on pensions, they will suffer when you put their money under this program. And you don't know the people who are already on pension, if you put their money there, they will suffer. Somebody should just give me that answer. I know that you know, and that is why you have done that for them. So tell me, so don't you know that people who are already on pension, if you put their money also under the same situation, they will suffer? Somebody should just say, oh, we don't know. Then I can proceed.
Well, there was a fierce clash in Parliament between MP for Boku Central Mahama Ayariga and Defence Minister Dominic Nitiwo over the recent killings in Wa. Mahama Ayariga was unhappy that the Defence Minister had suggested that he had shown little commitment to resolving the conflict in the area. We'll hear from what transpired actually in Parliament today in terms of the exchanges between the two men shortly. First, listen to a statement made on the floor of the House by Mahama Ayariga urging Parliament to investigate what he said was an extrajudicial killing by the military.
However, I call on Parliament to look into the military brutalities and their operational style in Boku. I have petitioned the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice to address these specific egregious human rights violations occasioned by these cold-blooded executions by the soldiers of the 10 citizens of Boku. Within military regulations, I expect the command to take the appropriate remedial action. We should be a community governed by laws and not the might of guns. I call on all, including the youth on both sides of the conflict, to respect the sanctity of lives in Boku. I urge the youth to appreciate that the military was brought in to protect lives and property in Boku. The military must also realize that they are dealing with human lives who they have a duty, first and foremost, to protect, even in very trying circumstances.
Well, that's the position of the MP commenting on the statement. Ranking member on the Defence and Interior Committee, James Agalga, argued that the conflict in Boku should be treated as a national security issue, whilst Deputy Majority Leader Fenyo Makin warned against politicization of that conflict.
It is not just a conflict between Kusazis and non-Krusis. It is a crisis which has escalated to the point where we need to treat the Boku issue now as a national one and give it national attention. On that note, Mr. Speaker, I would appeal for calm once again in Boku. I extend my deepest condolence to the victims in Boku. And the maker of the statement made it clear. The victims are drawn from both sides of the conflict.
If Boku is burning, can we build the schools? Can a doctor accept posting to Boku? Can a nurse accept posting to Boku? Or even if somebody is injured, would the nurse have the courage to treat the person, or a doctor have the courage to attend to the person? These are matters for our consideration. So, Mr. Speaker, this calls for our very reasonable approach to the problem, not to be very emotional, not to attempt to even do politics with it, and by extension attack the government. It is for us to fashion out what it takes to ensure peace in Boku, since the maker of the statement has told us the source of the problem.
And Minister Dominic Nitiwo explained that a parliamentary investigation will not be necessary because the police and Shraj were both investigating the matter. He, however, explained that the government has the political will to address the conflict.
Soldiers have now been put in the middle of this conflict. Remember, the soldiers are human beings like us, and they have not been put in the middle of this conflict. But, Mr. Speaker, there have been political will from the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo government. So let not be said that there's not been political will. The then chieftaincy minister, the honorable member for Hunter West, went to Boku and made the people of Boku aware that as long as the Boku Naba is attending the Regional House of Chiefs and the National House of Chiefs, we in government recognize him as the legitimate Boku Naba. If we do not stop what is happening in Boku now and now, we risk the situation where Ghana can be thrown under terrorist attacks. For the first time, Mr. Speaker, 3 days ago, improvised explosive device was used for the first time in this country to try to blow a bridge. Don't let us joke with Boko.
And indeed, we are all excited about that. Meet the ordinary heroes amongst us, making a difference in the communities and changing lives. Of course, one of the initiatives that we are bringing on board, the JoyNews Impact Makers Award, is putting that spotlight on these unsung heroes and champions, as we call them. And we need your help to find them as well. Do you know someone who deserves recognition for their hard work and dedication to their community? Nominate them now and let's celebrate the positive impact that they've been making. And of course, project lead MFR Ewanam Tiamwa Early is joining us in studio, and we're all excited about that. I feel that, of course, here at the JoyNews team, the JoyNews room, we should be the first set of people to be receiving that award. But we'll leave that aside for our viewers to also start off by telling us who they feel is indeed their impact maker. But how do we get onto the program? If I'm an individual watching the show this afternoon, I want to know about the show, what the essence is. How do I get started?
We are saying that we've advertised an email account, impact.makersaward@myjoyonline.com. Who is that in your community you think is making life better? All you need to do is to send the person's name, okay, into that email, and then you automatically receive a form which will require you to fill out the details of the individual. Immediately you do that, we then will take a look at it, compare it against every other entries we are receiving, and then who knows, maybe your nominee will become the JoyNews Impact Maker of the Year.
Do we know who's allowed to participate in this?
Absolutely, everyone can participate, except that we do not want to see the already sung heroes.
Yeah.
You talked about the unsung heroes. We are talking about people who are in the community, who are doing a lot of things to change lives. They are in the corner, but nobody is telling their stories. But then they are making a lot of impact. Last month, our colleague, Kojo Brace, was in the Western region and found a story about a young man who is trying to power a whole community.
Using the champagne.
Exactly. That is excellent. Until he brought that story, we didn't know about that guy. But you can imagine how excited or the community has become part of the whole of Ghana just because of that simple act. Those are the people we want to celebrate.
And that's why I'm asking the question about who's involved. Are we limiting this to a particular, say, category that we're looking at of people?
It cuts across all categories. Cuts across all categories. Is it health? Is it agriculture? Is it social? Is it education? So long as whatever activity the individual is engaged in is making life better, is making a difference, is adding to development, increasing advancement in their community, we are saying that that person deserves to be recognized and celebrated. Just let us know about them.
So when is this happening, and where is this happening as well?
This is happening here at JoyNews. Okay. The grand day where we award the individual, we'll communicate the location. But for now, all we are asking is that we need your entries. If you want your person to be celebrated, let us know about that individual, and then we'll do the rest of the work.
I'm just thinking about some of the people off my mind now. There are more than 5 actually that I want to nominate, for instance. But that brings the question as to how many people an individual can nominate. Can you go ahead and nominate all of your heroes?
At the moment, you are allowed to make just one nomination.
Just one nomination.
Just one nomination, so that we can have a proper representation of all the country. You don't, around the country, you don't want to have everything coming in from Accra and possibly just from one person, but then we want to cover the entire country. And so we want to also be able to give everybody a chance to be able to enter so that we can take a look at the nominations.
Are we giving a car, a house, a check? As for the check, I want some. I want to share money.
So I'll keep that for now, but I can let you know that you would love it. You'll be glad you did nominate somebody. So we are encouraging you to nominate the person. And it's not just about we telling the public that you are the Joy News Maker of the Year, Impact Maker of the Year. We are going to promote what you're doing. And then obviously, you know, we are going to be having sponsors, companies coming on board. Depending on what kind of services they offer, goods they offer, they are certainly going to make you benefit as far as encouraging you to continue what you're doing matters.
Ali, thanks for now. And that's why we're calling it the Impact Makers Award. If you have anybody on top of your mind that you want to nominate, just follow the prompts on the screens and make sure that, of course, that unsung hero becomes that notable person that could change, not just, of course, his community, but the entire country as well. But that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I am Blessed Sogah. Don't forget to log on to myjoyonline.com. There's a lot more there on that site for you in terms of all the news stories that we are bringing to you. But for now, it's bye-bye from here. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.